I want to start with something you've already done today, probably more than once, without noticing. A sigh. Not the dramatic, exasperated kind, although we all know those. I mean the quiet ones. That little sigh that just happens when you finally sit down, when a tension you were holding somewhere in your shoulders just releases. When something that was worrying you passes and your body decides to let it go. Those sighs aren't you being dramatic. They're your body doing something genuinely clever, something useful. And once you understand what and why, you can start doing it on purpose, whenever you need it. Welcome, or welcome back, to the new 5 a day. I'm Nick Walters, and this is Pillar 4, Me Time. And today, we're talking about the psychological sigh, what it is, what it does to your body, what the science actually shows, and how to use it in about 60 seconds, anywhere, for free, with no equipment. Let's go. So, what actually is a psychological sigh? The basic technique is this: 2 short inhales through the nose, followed by 1 long, slow exhale through the mouth. The first inhale fills the lungs. The second inhale, just a short top up, opens them just a little bit further. And then you breathe out slowly and fully until the lungs feel empty. That's it. That's the whole thing. But here's what makes it more than just a breathing exercise. You know, your body is already doing this several times an hour without being asked. Inside your lungs are hundreds of millions of tiny air sacs. They're called alveoli, but that's not important. They expand and contract with each breath to swap oxygen for carbon dioxide. And over time, especially when you're stressed and breathing shallowly, these sacs can start to deflate. Not dramatically, just a little. A sigh reinflates them. It's your body's built-in reset for the respiratory system. Now, researchers have actually mapped the neural circuits responsible for this. There are specific peptide circuits in the brainstem that generate sighs automatically, roughly every 5 minutes in most people. This isn't a quirk or a habit. It's a hardwired biological function. What the psychological sigh does is it takes that automatic mechanism and it puts it under your conscious control. You're not doing something artificial or forced. You're just borrowing a reflex your body already has, and you're using it deliberately. So let's talk about the exhale. Because that, surprisingly, is where the real action is. Most of us, when we think about calming breaths, we focus on the inhale. We always talk about take a deep breath. That's the inhale. But the research is pretty clear. It's the exhale that does the calming work. And the reason is to do with the autonomic nervous system. Now, the autonomic nervous system runs in the background. It regulates the things you don't consciously control: the heart rate, blood pressure, digestion. It has 2 main modes. The sympathetic system is your fight or flight mode. The heart speeds up, blood pressure rises, the body gets ready for action. The parasympathetic system is your rest and recover mode. The heart slows, blood pressure eases. The body gets to exhale, both literally and figuratively. And now here's the link to breathing. When you inhale, your heart rate briefly rises. When you exhale, it briefly falls. The longer you exhale relative to your inhale, the more time your heart spends in that slower, calmer, parasympathetic dominant state, what researchers call vagal tone, a measure of how well your body regulates its own stress response. That goes up. heart rate variability improves. In other words, a longer exhale sends a message to your own nervous system. The threat is gone. It's safe to stand down. The double inhale in the psychological sigh is there to make the exhale as full as possible by opening those lungs a little bit wider before you breathe out. That's the mechanism. Simple, but genuinely effective. Right. So what does the research actually say about this? There are really 3 layers of evidence here, and I think it's worth taking them one at a time. First of all, the controlled trial. In 2023, a team, including researchers from Stanford, published a randomized control trial in Cell Reports Medicine. They recruited 114 people and split them across different 5-minute daily breathing practices, including cyclic sighing, which uses our exact double inhale, extended exhale pattern, as well as a mindfulness meditation control condition. They ran this trial for a month, tracking mood, anxiety, breathing rate, and heart rate variability. The results were striking. All the breathing practices outperformed meditation for positive mood improvement. And cyclic sighing, our psychological sigh, came out on top. Greatest improvement in positive effect, greatest reduction in breathing rate, and the effects built over the month, suggesting that even brief daily practice produces a cumulative benefit. 5 minutes a day. Better mood than meditation. Now that's a headline worth sitting up for. The 2023 trial isn't working alone. It sits within a much larger body of research on slow, controlled breathing, and the findings are consistent across hundreds of studies and multiple systematic reviews. Slow breathing, generally defined as fewer than 10 breaths per minute, often with a longer exhale, that consistently increases vagal tone and heart rate variability, reduces blood pressure and heart rate, lowers cortisol stress levels, and reduces self-reported anxiety. A 2018 systematic review in Frontiers in Human Neuroscience mapped this across a wide range of populations and confirmed the pattern. A 2024 meta-analysis covering 40 studies found significant reductions in cardiovascular arousal and negative emotion from slow-paced breathing. A systematic review on diaphragmatic breathing found it reduced psychological stress markers across multiple adult populations. This isn't niche or speculative. Slow, controlled, exhale-led breathing has one of the stronger evidence bases in the whole of breathwork research. There's a third strand of research that I find particularly interesting: the psychology of the sigh itself. Multiple studies have found that spontaneous sighs, the ones your body generates on its own, are associated with a genuine reduction in felt tension. Researchers call this the relief effect of sighing. The sigh functions as a kind of resetter, interrupting a dysregulated breathing pattern and returning both breathing and emotional state to the baseline calm. What this suggests is that the psychological sigh isn't just triggering a physiological mechanism, it's activating something the body already recognizes as a signal of relief. You're working with the grain of your nervous system, not against it. Now, I want to be straight with you about what the evidence does and doesn't say, because I think this is a topic where the enthusiasm can sometimes run ahead of the data, and that doesn't serve anyone. The 2023 trial was focused on 5 minutes of daily practice, not just 1 or 2 sighs in a stressful moment. The evidence for instant on-demand relief from a single deliberate sigh is biologically plausible and supported by the spontaneous sigh research, but it hasn't been tested in exactly the same way. So if you try this once in the middle of a bad meeting and don't feel immediately transformed. It's not the technique failing. It might just be that the daily practice version is where the benefit is clearest. There's also something interesting and slightly counterintuitive in the research. Spontaneous sighs and instructed sighs aren't always the same thing. One study found that spontaneous sighs during stress produced relief. But when people were told to sigh during stress, it could actually slow their recovery in some conditions. The timing and context seem to matter. A sigh that arrives naturally may be more effective than one that's performed on command. And individual variation is real. For most people, slow, controlled, exhale-focused breathing is safe, accessible, and helpful. But if you have a respiratory condition, a history of panic disorder, or if controlled breathing has ever felt uncomfortable or made anxiety worse, stop. Go back to normal breathing and have a conversation with your GP before experimenting further. The honest summary? The evidence is directionally clear and the risks are low. Just use this as a useful tool, not a cure. There's a lot of breathwork advice out there. You hear about box breathing, the 4-7-8, the Wim Hof. You hear about diaphragmatic breathing, alternative nostril breathing, coherence breathing. And occasionally, it can start to feel like yet another area where the internet has decided to make something very simple appear very complicated. So, let me offer a frame that might help. Most of these techniques are drawing on the same underlying mechanism: slow, controlled breathing with attention to the exhale shifts the autonomic nervous system towards parasympathetic dominance. The difference between these techniques are mostly about the structure, the rhythm, and frankly, preference. None of them is the one true method. They're all more or less different routes to a similar destination. The psychological sigh has one specific advantage over most of the others. It's the shortest and least structured. You don't need to count. You don't need to remember a ratio. You don't need to be somewhere quiet or be seen doing something conspicuous. It's one extra inhale and then a long breath out. That simplicity is what makes it genuinely portable. If you already have a breathwork practice you like, brilliant, good on you. Keep it up. The psychological sigh isn't better than those. It's just different in a way that makes it easy to reach in the moments when the longer practice isn't available. So let's get to the practical bit. Because the goal here isn't just to understand the technique, it's to actually use it. And that means it has to fit into your daily life, in your daily moments of stress, without requiring you to remember 14 steps. So, here's the technique. Slowly. Inhale slowly through your nose, filling the lungs. Before you exhale, take one more short inhale. Just a top up, like topping up a glass. Now, breathe out through your mouth, slowly and fully, longer than the inhale, all the way until the lungs feel empty. And then repeat 1 to 3 times, or for about a minute. Keep the inhales gentle. You're not trying to inflate a balloon here. The exhale is where the work happens, so give it room. If you feel dizzy or lightheaded at any point, stop and return to normal breathing. This should feel like a release, not an effort. 3 ways you might actually use this. Number 1, as a brief daily practice. The randomized control trial we discussed earlier found the biggest benefits from 5 minutes a day over a month. If you want to build that in, morning works well. Before you look at your phone, before the day accelerates. Even 2 or 3 minutes is worth something. Think of it like a short daily reset for your nervous system. Number 2, as an in-the-moment reset. Before a difficult conversation, after you read a stressful email, when you feel your shoulders creeping up towards your ears, when you're sitting in traffic and the tension is building, 1 to 3 sighs. That's it. You don't need to make it a ritual or do it perfectly. You're just giving your nervous system a gentle nudge in the right direction. And finally, at the end of the day, if you struggle to wind down at night, a few minutes of this breathing before bed can help the body transition from the arousal of the day to something quieter. It's not a cure for insomnia, but just a small signal the day is done. It's safe to let go. The main thing I want you to take away is that this isn't a new obligation. It's a new option. It's a new tool that's already there in your body, waiting to be used. That's what me time can look like on an ordinary Tuesday. Not a spa day or an hour of meditation, but 60 seconds in the corridor outside a difficult meeting, taking 2 breaths in and 1 breath out, and remembering that your nervous system is on your side. Now, me time is pillar 4 of the new 5 a day. And I think the psychological sigh captures something important about what this pillar is really asking for. Not more time, not a great big change to your daily routine, just a moment, a deliberate, intentional pause in the middle of the noise, one that connects you back to your body, gives your nervous system a signal it recognizes, and costs absolutely nothing. The science supports it. The mechanism is real, and it's already in you. 2 breaths in, 1 breath out. That's your moment of calm. If you want to go deeper, the companion blog posts are on our website, www.new5aday.com. That's the number 5, including a fuller, evidence-based deep dive for those who want the science in more detail, and a full citations reference list covering the research we've drawn on today. Next episode is Pillar 5, Your People. The evidence on social connection and health is remarkable, and we're going to get into it properly. Same approach, no lectures, just the science on why connection matters and how to build it into your regular daily life. Hey, if you've enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, share, and let us know. Take care of yourselves, and remember, 2 breaths in, 1 breath out.